Good morning, boys and girls. This is Miss Nancy coming to you from the Upper Chichester Library in Upper Chichester, Pennsylvania. Well, we've had a rainy weekend, and perhaps today will be better. But I do hope that you had an opportunity to get together with family members and with your friends to play and to read some stories together. So this morning, I'm going to start by reading you a classic fairy tale called The Princess and the Pea. This is a very oldie but goodie. I hope you'll enjoy this. The illustrations in here are by Robert Ayton. Now you'll notice this is an old-fashioned costume worn by a prince that would have been worn probably in the 16 or 1700s. So, this is a fairy tale that would have happened a long time ago. There was once a prince who wanted to marry a princess, but above all, he wanted to be sure that she was a real princess. And of course, princes lived in castles like this. The prince traveled all over the world looking for his bride. See, there he is on his horse, with his cape flying. He met many princesses, but there was always something the matter with them. He thought this one was too tall, and that one was too small. He thought this one was too sad, and that one giggled too much. And above all, he was never sure that they were real princesses. The prince came back home from his travels without a bride, feeling very sad. One night, there was a terrible storm. Lightning flashed, thunder roared as loudly as cannon fire, and rain poured down like a flood. You can see that does look like a serious thunder and lightning storm. At the height of the storm, someone knocked loudly on the door of the castle. The king, the prince's father, went to open the door. There, standing outside in the rain, was a beautiful young woman. She might have been a princess, but she was such a mess that no one would have known it. Her hair was soaking wet. Raindrops ran down her face. Her clothes were drenched, and the rain poured in at the toes of her shoes and ran out at the heels. The king led the girl into the castle, and she stood before the prince and the queen in a pool of water. She looked like an orphan, but when the prince asked her who she was, she said, "I am a real princess." The prince was delighted when he heard her say that. It looks like he's helping her with the cake, with her cloak, to try to help her get dry. But the queen had her doubts. "We'll soon find out about that," she told herself. The queen went up to the spare bedroom and directed the maids to take all the bedclothes off the bed. She put a pea under the mattress, and then she had the maids pile mattresses on top of the pea. Finally, there were 20 mattresses on top of the pea. We have a picture here showing you all of the mattresses. There were a lot of them, weren't there? Then the queen told the maids to pile 20 feather covers on top of the 20 mattresses. This was the bed the princess would sleep on. "Now we'll find out if she's a real princess," the queen said. So we have the mattresses and then we have feather comforters on top. When the princess had bathed and eaten, the queen led her to the bedroom and helped her climb up onto the bed. Yeah, she would need a ladder to get up that high. "Sleep well," said the queen, as the princess closed her eyes. The first thing in the morning, the queen went to see the princess, and she said, "How did you sleep, my dear?" Does she look like she slept very well? "Not well at all," replied the princess. "In fact, I hardly slept a wink the whole night." "Well, what was the matter?" the queen asked. "I can't imagine what was in the bed," replied the princess, "but it must have been something very hard. I couldn't sleep, and now I am black and blue all over." The queen knew then that this beautiful young woman was really a princess. Only a real princess could have felt the pea through 20 mattresses and 20 feather covers. Only a real princess could have skin that was that tender. Now, the queen had the pea taken out of the bed so that the poor princess could sleep well. You see her holding the pea up in her hand. Then the queen went to tell the prince about the pea. He was overjoyed. He knew that his search for a real princess was finally over. The next week, the prince and the princess were married, and it was the most beautiful wedding the kingdom had ever seen. You see all the courtiers and the king and the queen, the prince and his princess. And for the pea, it was placed in a museum, and you can still see it there if no one has taken it away. You see, they put the pea on a special viewing pillow. That's what proved that she was a real princess. Now, most people do not have skin that's that easily bruised, including princesses. I think their skin is pretty much like everybody else's. Now, I also know that you all enjoy Curious George stories. And here at the library, we have quite a few different titles about Curious George, and I do hope you'll come in and see them sometime. This particular one is Curious George Visits the Library by Margaret and H.A. Rays. So, those of you who have had Curious George stories before know that his friend is the man with the yellow hat. This is George. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. Today, George and his friend, the man with the yellow hat, were at the library. You see, here's a sign here that says, "Story hour today, 11 a.m." And up here it says Public Library. George had never been to a library before. He had never seen so many books before either. Everywhere he looked, people were reading. Some people were read quietly to themselves. But in the children's rooms, the librarian was reading out loud to a group of children all crowded around the desk here. It was story hour. George loved stories. He sat down with the group of children to listen. The librarian was reading a book about a bunny. George liked bunnies. Behind the librarian was a book about a dinosaur. George liked dinosaurs even more, and he hoped she would read it soon. But next the librarian read a book about a train. George tried to sit quietly and wait for the dinosaur book, but it was hard to be that patient. But sometimes it was really hard for a little monkey like that to be as patient as he needed to be. When the librarian started to read about jungle animals, George could not wait any longer. He had to see that dinosaur book. He tiptoed closer. "Look, a monkey!" shouted a girl. The librarian put her finger to her lips. "We must be quiet so everyone can hear the story," she said nicely. "But there's a monkey," said the boy. The librarian nodded and smiled. She agreed. When she finished reading the jungle story, the librarian reached for the dinosaur book. Where did it go? And where was George? George was all ready to take the dinosaur book home and read it with his friend when another book caught his eye. This book was about trucks. George wanted to take it home too. And here was a book about elephants. George loved elephants. He added it to his pile. George found so many good books. He soon had more than he could carry. He leaned against a shelf to rest. Squeak went the shelf. Shh, said the man. Squeak went the shelf again, and it moved. Why, it wasn't really a shelf after all. George had found a special cart for carrying books. What luck! Now George could carry all the books he wanted. He rolled the cart between the shelves and stacked up books about boats and kites and baking cakes. He climbed higher to reach books about cranes and planes. We have some carts like that in our library. When you come see us, you'll see them. At last, George had all the books he could handle. He couldn't wait to head home and start reading. And right in front of him was a ramp leading to the door. George was curious. Could he roll the cart all the way home? Down the ramp George went. The cart rolled faster and faster. "Stop!" a library volunteer shouted. "Come back here with my cart!" But George was too excited to listen. The cart was picking up speed, and George was having fun. Until, crash! And the cart ran smack into a shelf of encyclopedias. Books flew up in the air, and so did George. He landed in a big pile right between the letters O and P. And you can see what a mess he's making there. "Oh, no," moaned the volunteer when he saw the mess that George had made. "How am I going to put away all of those books?" "I'd like to borrow this one," said a boy from the story hour. "And I'll take this one," said a girl. With help from George and the children, the books were sorted in no time at all. Soon there was just a small pile of George's favorite books left. "Would you like to take these books home with you?" the volunteer asked George. Then he took George to a special desk and helped him get his very own library card. George was holding his brand new card when his friend arrived with a stack of books of his very own. "There you are, George," he said. "I see you are all ready to check out." George and his friend gave their books to the librarian. She smiled when she saw George's pile. "I was wondering where this dinosaur book went," she said. "It's one of my favorite books." The librarian stamped the books and handed them back to George. Now, I need to tell you, she was stamping the books with a little stamp pad, and that is the old way that librarians were able to tell who had what book when they borrowed them. And today in our library, we'd use a computer scanning device to let us know who has the books that have been borrowed from our library. I do hope that you will come in and check out some books to take home and read with your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters. At any rate, with his books under one arm, George waved goodbye to the volunteer and to the librarian and the children from Story Hour. "Come see us again, George," the librarian said, waving back. "Enjoy your books." And he did. As you can see, he's sitting there with his friend, the man in the yellow hat, who's reading to him from his storybook. So, do come in, and you can get some more Curious George books if you like those stories. I'm just going to take a sip of water because my throat gets dry when I'm reading. Now, you children will be going to kindergarten before you know it. And this is the Kindergarten ABC book by Jacqueline Rogers. Here are all the letters, all the ABCs, and you'll be learning about them in kindergarten. Oh, there we go. I picked this book out because I thought it really had some very attractive, colorful illustrations. Hey, 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 it's an A day, and we find acorns outside. On B day, we bring in our backpacks. And here are some other words that start with B. Backpack, ball, bat, boat, books, boots, bottles, boy, brown and brush. And then on C day, we change the date on the calendar. And here's some C words. Calendar, chair, chalk, chalkboard, circles, clouds, and colors. They all start with the letter C. We draw and we color dinosaurs on D day. Look for words like desk, dime, dinosaur, doll, dot, drawer, drawings, and dress. They all start with D. Then we paint elephants on the easel on E day. Elephant, eagle, ears, easel, elbow, elephant, elf, evergreen. Those words all start with E. On F day, here's the F, on F day, we have fun planting flowers. And we look for faces, females, fingers, fish, floor, flower pots, fly, fork, and frog. They all start with F. Then on G day, we giggle in the gym. I'm sure you all have fun when you're playing with your friends and balls. And for G, we look for words like goal, girl, goalie, grass, green, grown-up, and gym. They all start with a G. On H day, we play with our hula hoops. I remember playing with these when I was a kid. And I think children play with them today as well. So words that start with H would be like hair, handkerchief, hat, hay, heads, hedge, house, hula hoops. Then on I day, we count rubber insects in math. And see these little rubber insects that they're counting? They're charting them to tell how many they have. And words that start with I would be inch, insect, Irene, ivy. On J day, we all get jiggly and jumpy. And we look for words like jacket, jelly, jogger, juice box, jumpers. Words that start with J. On K day, here's a K up here. On K day, we play kickball and fly kites. We look for words like kick, kids, kindergarten, kites. They all start with K. Sometimes pages stick together. Yeah. All right, now we're looking for the L day. For L day, we learn about lizards and llamas. Other words that start with L are leaves, legs, lid, lips, lizards, and llamas. And then over here, in music on M day, we sing about monkeys. We look for males, mitten, money, mouths. They all start with M. On N day, we build a tower of nickels. See how the tower of nickels looks like it fell over. And words that start with N are like necklace, nickels, nine, noses, note, numbers, and nut. On O day, we watch a movie about owls and ostriches. There's an owl and there's an ostrich. And words that start with O, oceans, octagon, octopus, opossum, orange, osprey, ostrich, otter, just to name a few. Then it's P day, and we pretend to be floating planets that spin around the sun. I guess he's pretending to be the sun, and they're all spinning around him. Things that start with P are like palms, pants, patch, penny, pink, pockets, and purple. On Q day, we are quick to raise our hands with a question. Here's the letter Q right up there. Some other words that start with Q would be quail, quarrel, question mark, quills. And we read about railroads on R day. See the children all hooked up together to pretend they are a railroad. We look for words like rug and ruler, rubber. They all start with R. On the S day, there's a scavenger hunt for stones, socks, and soup, a snail and a snake, and a silvery coin. Words to also start with S are like scissors, seats, silver, snail, snake, sneeze, snorkel, snowflake, and socks. Oh, over here, they're looking on this scavenger hunt. They're looking all around the classroom for all these items. I think we have to come to T day. Yes, we do. Now, this is T day. It says, on T day, we thump tambourines. See the little musical instruments? You've probably gotten to play them in school at one time or another. Words to start T and to look for would be tambourine, tear, teeth, tights, turquoise, and turtle. They'll start with T. Uh-oh, it's raining on U day. We use our umbrellas. Umbrella starts with the letter U. Ukuleles, umbrellas, unicorns, and United States all start with U. On V day, we share many valentines. So you see, this would be like, this is what you do in February, share valentines with all your friends. And Valentine starts with V, as does bays, best, violets, and berry. When it's W day, we write about walruses. See the big walrus with his long tusks? Some other words that begin with a W are like walnut, walrus, watch, whale, white, word, and writing. And see, she's practicing her writing. Oh, we're coming to the X day. And we play xylophones in music on X day. This is a xylophone, and that word starts with an X, xylophone. We also draw silly X-rays on each other. So they're pretending that they're X-raying each other. Some other words that start with X are, X-ray, of course, and then there's xylophone. Not a lot of words start with the letter X. Yippee! It's Y Day. Yahoo and yeehaw! We all play with yo-yos, and I want to learn. When I was a kid, we used yo-yos in the spring. That was always a sign of spring, was playing with yo-yos outside. And then we can look for words like yawn, yellow, yo-yo. They all start with a Y. And then the last letter in the alphabet is Z. Now, Z days, the last day, 0 more letters. So he's writing the letter 0 right there. That's the number 0, and then that's the word 0. And that is the end. And they're showing you here what a kindergarten layout might be. If you go to kindergarten, and I'm sure you've seen this in preschools too, they usually have sliding, climbing equipment outside. There might be a basketball court, there might be swings, there might be bars that you can walk across by holding on with your hand. And then in here we have kindergarten and first grade classrooms. It's kind of a diagram of where the classrooms would be in a school, just to get ready for school for next year, because many of you will be going to kindergarten. Well, I think that's the stories that I'm going to read to you today. I have some announcements I would like to make. I want to remind you again, come to the library and take out some of these books to enjoy at home. I want to mention to all of you and your moms that the Upper Chichester Summer Reading Program is getting ready to start. And there's going to be a summer kickoff event on June the 8th, which is coming up relatively soon, at 6:30 p.m. We're going to have Jungle John is going to come and be the guest speaker at that time. Mr. Andrew is also going to be involved in these evenings, and these summer Wednesday evenings at 6:30 are going to happen throughout June and July. And there will be a variety of events for each week. We are starting with the Butterfly Project again. There will be beekeeper Warren Graham will be coming. But as the summer goes on, we will announce to you who is going to be heading up each Wednesday evening. But Mr. Andrew will be there other evenings, most of the evenings. And it's going to be at the future home of the Upper Chichester Library, which is in Kingsman Park, Upper Chichester, Pennsylvania. Also, just to mention, we have 2 more classes that you might be interested in via Facebook. We've had Saturdays at 11 o'clock with Art Kits with Miss Teresa, and there's going to be one more on Saturday, May the 20th at 11 o'clock via Facebook. Not Facebook, via Facebook Live. And then there's one more crocheting class with Miss Hannah, and that will be 11 a.m. on Friday, May the 20th. So that will be the end, and she's going to be showing you how to crochet these flowers, if I can show them to you right there. And the kits for these activities are available here at the library for free, so I hope you will come in and get one. And that's our announcements for this week. Do come to the library. Enjoy it. I hope to see you here then. Bye-bye.